the sunrise safari this morning and wondering about what's going on. Who are these lions? This is the Tsalala pride, spelled T-S-A-L-A, Tsalala, and it is after a place on an area to the south of us they're named after called Londolozi. There's a pan very close to the lodge called Tsalala Pan, and the first time these lions were seen or seen regularly around that pan. And what Tsalala means, it is a low felt gardenia, which is a tree, and there's a very big one of those that grows next to that pan. So as far as I know, I think there are 3 subadult males, 1 subadult female, and 2 adult females. Sorry, 4 subadult males, 1 subadult female, and 2 adult females. One of these is a tailless lioness, and she lost her tail. That's her there on the far left, in an encounter with hyenas some years back. And quite interestingly, how when we found them this morning, they were being mobbed by about 12 hyenas, and they killed a subadult buffalo probably early this morning. So when we arrived, I first just saw this hyena with tail up whipping across the road, and we managed to get in there, and we found them actually chasing these lions, or mobbing them around the lines. We're very close to the hyena den, and they managed to keep the hyenas at bay. We did see the hyenas attempt one sneaky attempt at stealing the carcass, but they got caught out. You can see there the hippos. So we're going to reposition. You see all the lines there. Well, for those, again, I'm sorry I didn't give a full update. We missed the morning sunrise safari. We're wondering whether we're on Djuma or Arathusa. We are on Djuma. We are right at the corner of Djuma, an area I like to call the Bermuda Triangle, because quite often when we find tracks, they just cross out of our area and go through this tiny little triangle and cross out again. But fortunately this time we found the missing plane, or the missing ship that has been sucked in by the triangle, and it was the Tsalala pride on a buffalo kill. But then there were 3 lions we don't know where they are or where they come from, and they must possibly be related, because when I arrived all of them were together. They've split again, so maybe they split a while before, and we're heading back towards where those other lions are. But I'm just trying to see if it's sat still for long enough. There we go. And I just saw in the tree here, Bryan, one of my favorite squawkers. Over yet here, feeding off combretum seeds, some brown-headed parrots. So there we go. Lions and parrots. What a great way to start the sunset safari. While we make our way back towards where that buffalo carcass was and the other 3 mystery lions, we're going to cross to James, who was with another member of Africa's Big Five.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this combretum woodland where we are surrounded by elephants. There's a huge bull over there. There's a cow with her squaff tusks, one facing backwards, one facing forwards, just up ahead there. And there's a little baby coming through the clearing here. just in front of us. Look at this, look at this. Oh, so vicious. Telling us exactly who's boss. Right. We don't want to laugh too much at them. We are quite close to them, and there is also a big bull, it looks to me, with them. He's gone off over there. There's another cow coming through here. Quickly go across to Brent. We'll see you just now.
Welcome back, guys. These hyenas just charged in and stole what's left of the kill, although the one lion's managed to keep it there. There we go. These hyenas are fighting over what's left. How incredible is that sound? I don't think they're quite given up. No. Oh, there we go. The lions have run off what's left of the carcass. The one lion's carrying a bit of the rib cage. And this is what I was saying on the sunrise safari. Hyenas are so patient. They know when it's the right time. These three lionesses, two of them look to be sub-adults, so not nearly as confident as the others with the young males. And they might still push the one lioness who's got a bit of meat. You can see how audacious these hyenas can be. They've been lying in the bush here, just waiting for the right time to get in there. And there goes that lioness with that piece of meat in her mouth. What perfect timing as we got here. Look at this hyena running around with the buffalo foot in its mouth. Well, it looks like that hyena's going to try cut off the other lioness. So just hold on. We're going to try and get there as fast as possible. Does it still have a bit of meat? Oh, there's hyenas running in from all around us. There's some obviously heard that commotion. They're coming from quite a distance. Let's just sneak forward, see if we can see anything else. Just like that, it was over. Incredible how quickly things can happen and how patient those hyenas were. There's the rest of that pride. So we've got the three, there's the main Tsalala pride, we've got these three other lions here, just to the left of us in the bush here, trying to eat what's left of that buffalo rib cage, but in the thickets there. A little bit to the right there, Bryan. There. And let's just go back to where that carcass was. There's still 4 or 5 hyenas around there. Isn't this exciting? Started the drive this morning with hyenas cackling maniacally, and not long after going live this evening on the sunset safari, we had them cackling maniacally again. I do love that noise. Something completely primal about it. Those hyenas have been patiently waiting all day for the right time to make a play at the lions. And as soon as the main part of the pride moved away, we got here just as they started rushing in. We saw them coming in from a bit of a distance off. Well, we had quite a lot of discussion this morning when the hyenas were sort of hanging around when there were sort of 7 lions here. And hyenas generally sort of like the sort of 3-to-1 odds. Although today, when those 3 remaining lions were here, there was only 1 adult lioness she was even still then quite young, with 2 sub-adults, and that makes things a little bit more in the hyenas' favor. And there was probably 5 or 6 hyenas. They'd already eaten a lot, so they'd moved off, and that's what Monique from London was wondering. Why wouldn't they defend against the hyenas? And they did, Monique, this morning. They chased them multiple times, but they're full. There's almost no meat left in the carcass. Not really worth defending and risking an injury. And as you can see with this, here comes another one, late to the party, but about to cause some havoc, I'm sure. Trying to find whatever little scraps there are. There we go. And for that, there's no meat left on that for a lion, so there's very little reason for a lion to defend that carcass. Let's go to the hyena who's got the skull. That hyena's already decided there's not enough meat left on the skull. It's worthwhile, but they managed to get right in there very quickly. Oh, and whoops went the brain on a young buffalo. They just now be looking for any little scrap of skin or bone. There we go, a foot. That'll even suffice. Well done, Howard. So Howard is that nickname I have hyenas. I've actually got a cardboard cutout, life size of a hyena from a film shoot I worked on a couple of years ago, and it hangs on the wall at home. So it got named Howard. So since then, almost all hyenas I've been calling Howard. Male or female, Howard's a good name for a hyena. You can see getting into the bone marrow there, cracking open, licking up the marrow, really, really rich in protein, so very good for a hyena. And they're one of the few animals that is able to get into a bigger animal like a buffalo's sort of bone marrow and that. Lions, although they've got incredibly powerful jaws, nothing in comparison to a hyena. So just crushing that bone. Another latecomer coming running in, and obviously quite a high-ranking late runner because it seems to have stolen from the other. You guys a gap through the tree there. Just got to update the game drives quickly. Andrew. So yeah, protective even over the most little scrap. Andrew. Andrew, the Mnisi came and jaunched what was left of the nyama. All the ngalo are lying up directly in front of Sydney's kaya. No, we've still got about 6 or 7 Mnisi here. Hoof, all for the hoof. But doesn't want to go too far, just in case there's another scrap around. And you'll notice that the lower ranking individuals will move further away from where there's possibility of scraps to try scoff down as much food as they can. we've been able to see quite a few different hyenas and spend some time. And let's have a look at this one over here. And there he is, still munching away. And you can see Sharon from Pittsburgh. So I presume, Sharon, you're a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. There we go, perfect. On cue, hyena. She said it looks like there's more hair on certain individuals' necks. Is this the sign of age? It can be, Sharon, and you can see it gets worn and stuff like that. It can also, incoming, Bryan. Just going to charge in and try to steal this one's foot, maybe. Oh, that's a beastly looking hyena. You can see that massive neck, and that one does have more hair. Age, and also just like some individuals seem to have more fur and different colouring. And you can see that one's almost got a golden tinge to it, where the other hyena that's eating this foot here is a much lighter tinge. I mean, there still is a bit of gold, but they are a little bit lighter. And I don't think this one is any... difficult to age, but I would say it's younger than the one that's got more fur over there. Just looking at her ears, and also just from her general behaviour, I'd say that's more than likely a female. And another late arrival coming jogging in. Obviously, all the hyenas in this area would have heard this pandemonium. Here we go, off with the buffalo. Oh, here we go. Oh, no, you're not as high ranked. So those who might be new, wondering what that clicking is, that's just my camera taking a few snapshots. I encourage you guys to do the same and pop the pictures on the wild. You can see that tail up as a sign of excitement. Oh, did you make off with someone else's piece of meat? Are you going to get into trouble? And you see, try and move off to an area where it feels a little bit safer from being stolen from another hyena. And you see how that bone crunching happening all around us. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hyenas crunching bones, and basically in a full 360 around us. Oh, there we go. Are you going to steal it? Oh, another latecomer. Bit late there, shame. Not too many scraps for you, but I found something. So you can see it's very interesting, the social dynamics that are happening around here, and that big female that came in and stole the skull from next to us here, and she took off with it, heading straight back towards the den would be my guess. Den's not very far from here, probably like less than 700 meters. And we know for certain that there were 12 adults here this morning, and there's probably quite a few of them out further than that, so you probably look at it, there's maybe up to 15 or 20 hyenas in this clan. There's some very, there we go, some submissive behavior happening here. So the one behind seems to be more dominant and took a little tidbit from the one in front. Oh, listen to that crunch. We've got a second question from Monique in London, who's wondering, how often do hyena lose teeth from that harsh breaking of bones that they do quite regularly? Well, Monique, you must realize their teeth are designed for breaking bones. They don't lose them too often. They generally, as they get older, then that's when that type of stuff happens. But they're not as sharp as, say, a lion or a leopard's teeth. They're far more rounded and made for crushing. That's why when hyenas do their own hunting, they sort of hang on to an animal and take chunks, or sort of rip chunks. So they're not really able to really grasp and get stuck into it. And that is a special adaptation to be able to destroy these bones. And I mean, if you think about that buffalo leg bone that's being crushed in front of us here, I mean, that must be nearly 10 centimeters across. So I mean, you must think about that. It's a bone that's that big, and they're just going crunch straight through it. And it's they're incredible animals, and they often get quite a bad rep. But definitely one of my favorite predators out here in the bush. So all's calming down here. The sun's coming out. We had a fairly hard rain this morning after the sunrise safari. And we were all a little bit worried that it might continue through to the afternoon, but fortunately it hasn't. Well, hyenas are quite funny looking animals, and their front legs are far sort of longer than their back legs, and they have that very sloped back. And howdy to Becky from the Lone Star State, who's possibly a new viewer, so welcome if you are, Becky. Oh, we've got another latecomer coming in, and you can see that very distinct lope of a hyena with the front legs being higher than the back. Becky, there's a couple of reasons that they've evolved that way. The main reason, oh, I have a bit of greeting. The main reason is you can see how thick their neck is, and they have those incredibly powerful shoulders and neck muscles and obviously jaw muscles. So having that bigger, longer legs in the front enables them to pick up very heavy pieces of meat or bone and carry them for a very long way. So that is an adaptation there. Also, they walk incredible distances and they can jog for incredible distances. And this seems to be the perfect design for stamina. And you'll notice that the right legs and left legs each work in tandem. So they don't walk like a lot of other animals. And that is part of that adaptation. But the main reason is to have those I'll see if they've moved it further off. Oh, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hyenas still around here. Various running around. There's another one coming through. Come on, Howard. You missed your boat, Howard. You were late. Still might get enough going to go, possibly challenge the lioness. What was that? I just saw flicking tail. Is that a hyena or another lion? It's another hyena. So the lions have gone from this little thicket that they were. And then so we can see there's two distinct prides of lions here, and it is possible they were related at some point, but at the moment there seems to be some disconnect between them. And you can see that Tsalala's in the background, and there's three which we assume to be the Shimungwes in the foreground, but I'm not 100% sure. You can see that scent marking, a bit of dominance. Oh, another hyena coming in. Looks like those three lions are going to go have a little drink. Now there we saw some definite... Oh, this is going to... Might taste that one. Oh no, decided not to. Trying to get its piece of meat back. Yeah, let's go see what that hyena's up to. The one that stole the meat and moved, and also go see if those lions are heading down for a drink. Stopping safely, where safe distance away from the other hyenas, possibly so it doesn't get stolen. And then if we come off to the left, there's some lions drinking with hippos watching them. There we go, the hippo's going to chase the lions, or it's threatening to. Didn't you see that? Isn't that incredible? Obviously, most animals don't like apex predators around them. Strangely enough, before we went live today, Bryan asked me, would a hippo chase a lion? I said, they do sometimes, yes. So, it could be a young calf there that's making that hippo even more particular about chasing the lions, and you see, it didn't really get close enough to bother the lions. The lions did not run off. Also, probably just warning the lions, if you do come any closer down to towards where we are, we might be a little bit less forgiving than we are now. And the hippo probably won't want to risk coming completely out of the water. That could set off the rest of the lion's hunting instincts, and the hippo might find a lion on its back. Yeah, a spectacular scene. Oh, the hippo looks like they might be preparing for another onslaught. Hasn't this been a fantastic sunset safari so far? All action here at Djuma Private Game Reserve.
Hello everyone, what an incredible afternoon we are all having. We have spent a lot of time with some elephants. That, of course, that you're looking at now is not, in fact, an elephant. It is Aquila wahlbergii, the Wahlberg's eagle. And he is an avian predator in much the same way as the lions you've been watching are terrestrial predators, and just so spectacular, first of all, to have so many lions there after a hiatus of so long, and secondly, to have them actually doing something other than lying about in their own detritus, which tends to be what they do quite a lot. Anyway, that Wahlberg's eagle is quite a special little bird. They're some of my favorites because they come back to Africa, well, they live in Africa, from North Africa, and they're one of the first migrants that get back here. And in this particular area, we get different color morphs of them. That's obviously the darkest morph that there is, and I'm sure if you're a regular watcher, which you all should be, of course, we get pale form Wahlbergs here quite a lot, which is the more unusual form. I'll show you a picture of a pale form Wahlbergs. Andrew will first show you the dark form Wahlbergs then in other areas is much more unusual. Very beautiful little birds. They're little eagles, small ones, and they are monogamous. Now, I'm going to say something about that shortly, but there's the pale form Wahlbergs, and we see him quite a lot. And there's a little nest just near the Gowrie, a tree around there. Pale form Wahlberg's eagle. And that's, well, it's probably that one that we're seeing the most, that kind of, maybe even in between, or black versus brown, chocolatey coloured one. So that is the Wahlberg's eagle, summer resident, and they breed here, of course, and in South Africa. They don't breed in North Africa. I'm just getting my radio out. And the one thing I wanted to say about the monogamy is that they are It's a monogamous pair bond. A lot of people think because we're human beings and we like to attach ourselves or our emotions to animals, we think of monogamous as being for life. And often in the animal kingdom it doesn't mean for life, it just means per season or for a couple of seasons, and then they'll move on to other partners. But it will only be one partner at the time. Right, with that fresh in your minds, let us head back across to the hugely enthusiastic Brent Leo Smith, his lions and his hyenas, and I will continue along this road and see what else we come across. See you just now.
And there we go, those 3 lionesses, the adult lioness and the 2 sub-adults, moving off. Oh, and the hippo, thinking he's done a very good job. See, I was so clever. I chased those lions all by myself. Females adore me. That's what he's rumbling under his breath in hippopotami. Sorry guys, Andrew's just giving me a call. Standing by, Andrew. I'm on the Buffles of cut line. The Tsalalas are next to that small concrete mighty in front of Sydney's Kaya. And these other 3 lionesses, I'm not sure who they are. They are now walking away from Sydney's on the southern side of the dam. And there's also Mnisi this side as well. Please make your way. I'm the only person here. Who are these mystery lions? It is a conundrum. I'm not 100% they're Shimunguas. The last time I saw the Shimunguas, there were 2 young males and a sub-adult. Hyenas still munching away. Oh, now this is interesting. Bryan, come on. So one of what we assume is the Tsalala animals is now walking, and are the rest of them going to follow this mystery pride of lions? Maybe they are related. It would seem to be they're related. They could have split quite a while ago. And unfortunately, as I said, this pride's relatively new in this area. And Tricia from Toronto is wondering, would these lion prides defend each other against other danger? Tricia, only if they were related. Lions are very important about, or instinctively defend their genetic line. So if they were related, most definitely. So the fact that they tolerated, where there was 7 other lions and they tolerated these 3, would lead me to believe that they are possibly related. Let's just move a little bit again so we can see. How's that fun? There we go. Isn't this absolutely fascinating? You can see that behavior. They're not 100% comfortable with each other, and prides that split and can and with the current lion upheaval in this area, maybe it'd be a good thing to be a bit of a bigger number. But then the other problem with that is a big number of now, will this fourth lioness continue to follow, or will she head back to the rest? Well, at the moment she's following. I wish we could follow them. Unfortunately, they are crossing out of our traverse area. And if they carry on in the direction they're heading at the moment, they're actually going to cross out of the Sabi Sands completely and into the Manuleti Game Reserve. And it doesn't look like any of the others are following. They're pretty much lying opposite the other lions at the moment. Oh, a lion. Is that a hyena or a lion moving through the bush? I can't really see. I think it was a hyena through this thicket here. And that's where the other lions are, where Bryan's showing you now. Now if we come back to these lions that are out in the open still. Now this is interesting. Here comes that fourth lioness. How are they going to... No, she's lying off to the side. So you can see those three are definitely a unit. And it is possible that this fourth lioness might have been a litter mate of the adult lioness there. Or before the prides... one must remember that a lot of what we is so incredibly fascinating. You learn something new every single day. Just going to move the vehicle a little bit forward, see if we can see the rest of the Tsalala parrot as well. Go. So we've got, there we go, Bryan zooming in for you there. Hyena wandering behind the lions there. Maybe going for a drink. After a good bit of thievery. One deserves that. A relaxing drink. If these young males weren't so full, they might actually sometimes chase hyenas just for a good fun. There's another hyena. There we go. Little drink. They might even have a bit of a lie down in that pan. Hyenas love water. Okay, just got to be on the radio for a second. Afternoon tax. There's Nisi Joncha Nyari from around the gate. Bengala lying up in front of Sydney's Kaya. There's still quite Andrew, confirm you in front of Sydney's Kaya. Copy. The only you see, I can see the ones in front of the Ngala now at that mighty, and then there's one out in the open. Yeah, a little bit further to the east, eating a stolen bone, and then the other Ngala lying on the northern side of the dam. Sorry about that, folks. Just keeping Andrew up to date. He's been looking at the hyenas and just wondering what's going on this side. You're going to see a new pride forming with this fourth line joining these other three. And incredibly, not far from here where we are at the moment, in the Manuleti Game Reserve, there's a place called the Dixie Koppies, and I see, Bryan, you can just see them to the left of that power line. There we go. If you zoom in there, you see that starting to rise there. Now there's another pride of lions that the Manuleti guys don't know about. We don't know who they are, and they've got 3 tiny cubs and about 6 adults, and they've just arrived from somewhere, so we're not sure about that. So within a sort of 2-3 kilometers, we're sitting with probably close on 20-25 lions at the moment. Oh, look at the little one, Andrew. Oh, sorry, Bryan. It's one of the little sub-adults from the den has decided to come inspect these lions and what all the noise was about. And what are you up to, little one? Not coming out from behind the bush. Having now. So obviously hyenas have incredible digestive systems, and they can deal with lots of stuff. And here are these little ones coming in, and they're dominant, so they belong to a high-ranking female because they've just chased an adult off what little bit of meat it had. Managed to still get away with some of it. But yeah, they come in again. See those tails up in excitement. So even though that adult's obviously physically much bigger and stronger than these little guys, they obviously belong to a more high-ranking female in the clan, so she had to try to give or get away with her meat, and she's got away with some of it. And as I was saying, hyenas have incredible incredible digestive systems. And quite interestingly, we had two trackers working with us recently, great guys, Bryan and Jeffrey. And whenever we found hyena tracks or saw hyenas, they're like, maspara, maspara. And maspara is the Shangaan word for the rubbish collector. So, I think quite an apt name for hyenas. And obviously, the Shangaan is Mnisi. There we go, a bit of greeting going on there. So, lifting and exposing genitals. Very important in hyena. Greeting ceremonies. So let's have a look. So we're going to hang around here just to keep a watchful head off to Commander Bond, who's with another herd of elephants.
Hello everyone, welcome to a beautiful sighting of Combretum apiculatum, my favourite tree. That's not actually why you've come to us. There was a herd of elephants in here and it has just melted into the bush. We're going to go after them, well, in the most subtle way possible, and we'll see if we can't get a nice view. There's a very small baby and they're moving very gently through what is a relatively openish area there, and so what we'll do is just ease our way in there. Now, of course, easing in a Land Rover with a V6 engine, sorry, straight 6, I pulled it a V6 once in front of Liam and he shouted at me for 3 days afterwards. We're going to just try and ease our way in there in a gentle fashion. There's a very little one. I'd say you're probably a breeding herd of about 15 elephants or so, maybe 10. Not quite as big as the other one we had earlier, but in similar, not in fact even near the same area, but doing the same sort of thing, moving very slowly through the woodland and feeding. There we go. There you'll get a nice view of the tiny little one there. I'm just going to stop here. I just want to let them get used to us. And they do seem a little bit nervous. So we'll just stop here briefly, let them get used to us, and then we'll move in there. Again, there you can see a little one coming through, but there is even a much smaller one in there as well. There we go. And you can see again what a brilliant colour grey is. If you want to avoid detection, there's a youngster getting cross about something, throwing some sort of a tantrum. I've only recently realised this, and I mean some of you may have realised it before I did, which wouldn't be surprising. The youngsters are the ones often that make that kind of shouting noise, and often I've always thought that it was the bigger ones that did that, but it would seem that it is very often the little ones who literally throwing a bit of a tantrum. They either can't suckle, or slightly bigger ones push them. Isn't that beautiful? She's a little bit concerned about us. You can see she's opened her ears out. What that means is that she's showing us that she's large, which certainly hasn't escaped my notice, and also that she's listening to us quite carefully. So we're just going to stop here and watch her and let her relax. I'm hoping that they're going to come out onto the open area behind us. But we've had some really lovely rain today, probably about 10 millimeters, 1 centimeter, or say a third of an inch. And what that will do is just give a little bit more impetus to the grass. And the elephants, that is very meaningful for. It means that they will come into the open areas to feed more, because if they can, they will eat grass rather than trees, leaves and branches and that sort of thing. But you can see at the moment she is feasting on the fresh new green shoots of the early summer. And she's also coming to have a very good look at us. And just make sure that she's comfortable with us. And if not, well, so we'll just back out if she looks like she's feeling uncomfortable. At the moment she's looking okay though. There's a tiny little one there, Andrew, can you see it? Now they are communicating. I think they're communicating quite carefully with each other. They've suddenly all turned and moved in the same direction, and they only do that when they are, like a command has been given almost by the matriarch, and it'll be so low down, so low frequency, that our rather pathetic human ears won't be able to pick it up. Excuse my head in the corner of your screen. I'm performing immense acrobatics in order to avoid that, but a little difficult hanging out of the car in front of an elephant. This is just beautiful. It's wonderful to spend this kind of time in such close proximity. I think she's pregnant as well. You can see from the swelling on her right-hand side, our left-hand side, that she's pregnant. And that's where an elephant's uterus is situated. That's where she'll carry the calf. So it doesn't hang low down like it does in so many other mammals. The other thing you can see is that she's probably about to start lactating. You can see that from her swollen mammary glands. Beautiful elephant, look at her. Isn't that wonderful? I'm just reverse out while I answer Isabella's question. Isabella, aged 4, thank you for your question. It's a clever one. You want to know, do elephant babies also get a time out when they throw a tantrum like you do? Isabella, I'm afraid in the elephant world, corporal punishment is still very much in vogue. And what that means, Isabella, is that elephant babies are disciplined with a smack from their mothers. They will hit them with their trunks or push them out the way, and that generally puts them in a better mood immediately. They are not, ill discipline in an elephant herd is really not tolerated at all. And then the little elephant will go off in a bit of a sulk, and I suppose that would be something of a timeout, if you like. I'm going to stop right here, just move a little bit forward, and we'll watch them come out, hopefully, into this open area in front of us, especially the little one. Isabella, let's try and find a 4-year-old elephant to show you how big an elephant your age is. Much bigger than you, I have to say, much bigger than me even. Though that's not saying much. Right. We don't want to frighten them, so I'm going to get, although we can't see them very well just now, I'm going to stop pretty soon, sorry. So view. Well, let's just see how far forward we can go without them getting upset. How's that, Andrew?
Getting there.
Okay, she's just looked at us, so I'm going to stop. We are pretty close by, I have to say. Now, Isabella, let's find a 4-year-old elephant. This one closest to us here, I'd say is about 7, so a bit older than you. And then... there we go. Andrew, you see the one in between there? You probably can't see it.
There we go.
We'll wait, there she is. Isabella, I think that one's probably about 3 or 4. Maybe a little bit younger than you, but possibly the same age. Isn't that nice that you share the same age as an elephant here in Africa? Isn't that amazing? This cow is just so magnificent. Look at her. She's just fantastic. Hello, Ashley E., one of our newer viewers. You want to know if the female that came to look at us is the matriarch. It's the female in front of us as well. It's the same cow. And you want to know if she was the matriarch. I think probably she is, you know, Ashley. That's a very good supposition that a youngster, sorry, excuse my head, that a big cow who would come and investigate us would be the matriarch. She will be very concerned about the safety of the herd, and she'll come and investigate any threat. But you can see, if she felt there was a threat, this youngster, that's her there, this youngster right next to us, who Andrew's going to show you now, thank you, Andrew, wouldn't be allowed to stand here. And what I mean is, she would give some kind of a warning signal, and the elephants would move away from the vehicle, because they would certainly see it as you know, if they did see it as the threat, she wouldn't allow the youngster to come this close, certainly not without reacting herself. And you can see she is, well, you did see she's turned her back on us and she's totally relaxed. Andrew, don't do that. In the Land Rover. Thanks for that, Andrew. I will get you back. We'll drive you through a Sisyphus bush and we'll see who's laughing. Right, I'm going to sneak forward again, so my head probably will come into picture. Oh, no, look at that. Amazingly agile, aren't I? Sneak very slowly forward. Now, one thing that I did notice in the last herd that we were watching, and certainly Andrew noticed it as well, was there was a big bull with them. And although that cow, that matriarch we've been looking at is enormous, she's about 1,800 pounds with the little one here, and the big bulls are just substantially bigger, a third again the size, and you don't realize it until you see pretty useless at that age. So he'll try and pick some up, maybe taste a bit and throw a bit over his skin. But the trunk is really not particularly good even yet. It does take about 2 years for their trunks to become fully sort of functional, and that is very complicated to learn to use. It's just like with a human being, you know, us look at Stop here. Just like with a human being, where we take a long time to learn our coordination. You know, little children take a little while to learn to colour in, for example. That's a good example. You know, we don't have the coordination in our hands, the fine motor skills to colour in accurately in the lines. I still can't do it, but that's because that's a fault in me, not our species. And so that little one there who's playing in the sand, although he wants to, he loves the feeling of sand on his body, he's incapable yet of picking it up with his trunk and then throwing it on himself, so he must lie down and face plant himself in it and basically look ridiculous. So he's actually eating some of that sand. And here's a young bull next to us. He's come to say hello. And the young bulls are very inquisitive. They're always very good value. You can see he's very close by to us now. He's probably only about 3 meters away. It's about 10 feet. Also by the sound of a white-browed scrub robin going. Oh, this is so lovely. And the young bulls will go and investigate the little ones like that. They'll do a Can you see a baby moving in its mother before it's born? Can you see a baby moving in its mother before it's born? Laura, I haven't seen it. I don't know. Very good question. I've actually just picked up my powerful binoculars and I'm looking at the matriarch now. I think she might be pregnant. There's definitely a swelling there. And I'm wondering if, just seeing if I can see any kicks. But I can't. I'm going to keep an eye out for it, Laura, and I'll definitely let you know if I notice any movement in utero, as it were. So I'm going to sneak a little bit further forward. They're quite nice and relaxed with us now. We obviously want to maintain that status quo. And they're all feeding on a tree that was previously pushed over and yet is still growing. And this is, we're looking at a cow who's probably about, I'd put her at about 35 to 40 years old. She's in the sort of flush of her life, if you like. She will start to lose her reproductive capacity a little bit after this. And Ashley E. and Cheryl in Pittsburgh, you want to know when it is that a cow will first give birth. It can be as early as 9 years, you know, and that's young. I mean, and they're not very big. A 9-year-old cow is really not large at all. Andrew, that one there is probably about the size of a 9-year-old there on the left-hand side. Now they can give birth. Sorry, they can mate at 9, so she'll then give birth when she's 11. Gestation's about 22 months, and that's the kind of earliest that it would happen. It's not common, but it does happen. And when you see an enormous bull trying to mate with a 9-year-old cow, it's an astonishing thing to see. But it is impossible for him to do without her acquiescence. What that means is without her allowing it, she basically has to reverse into him for it to work. Unusual. I'd say probably around 14 or 15 would be the most common. Would be the most common. Which would mean the first mating of about 12 or 13 years. Now what they're eating here, over the top of my fat bonds, which I'll get out of your way, is to deal with elephants. So you can see it's been massacred many times by elephants. I suspect it's been massacred many times by elephants. I suspect that most of the greenery around there is the same plant, a zebrawood, Dalbergia melanoxylon, and you know that that tree, in the absence of elephants, is actually quite a good tree for making furniture. You wouldn't believe it, but it grows in this kind of scraggly, creeper-like fashion because, as you can see, the elephants are quite partial to the taste. And very thorny. And if you drive over that with a normal car that doesn't have tires like Wendy's, you can really do some serious damage. And how an elephant then puts those things in its mouth, I just can't imagine. This is wonderful. I can't believe we've had two such magnificent elephant sightings in one day. We are richly blessed. Look at that little one. Now we're just looking at a little one hiding behind there, and then we were looking at the one in front of us who I have guessed is pregnant, and obviously the birthing of an elephant is an extremely exciting thing. Rather like with human beings, it tends to be a very celebratory affair where the entire herd will surround the new mother giving birth and trumpet and shout and make a big fuss over the whole affair, which I think is rather marvellous. And Elizabeth in Canada, you want to know how far along I think this elephant is. Gee whiz. Elizabeth, I could guess, but it would be no more than a guess, and I suspect that you might guess as accurately as I would. There is quite a large swelling there in her belly, which Andrew will show you. There it is. I would put her at not much more than 2 months off giving birth, I would say. So say 20 months along, perhaps. And she, just by the size of her mammary glands as well, that indicates to me that she's certainly already started producing milk and starting to swell there. So I'd say maybe 2 months off, maybe less than that. But Elizabeth, I could be talking utter nonsense. I don't think I am, but I could be. There, you can see there. Very swollen. And elephants are one of the few mammals, other than primates, that have what we call inguinal mammae. If somebody came up to you in the street and said inguinal mammae, you wouldn't know what on earth they were talking about, but what it means is that they've got their mammary glands between the front legs, but exactly like human beings, and it does give them a slightly disturbingly humanoid feature, I find. I find it really amazing. I think she is actually lactating. The inside of her legs seem to be quite moist, and I'm sure that's because she's starting to lactate. So Elizabeth, let's go with a month or two until she gives birth. She's now eating from a balanites, or green thorn tree, also a big favourite with elephants, but somewhat more successful at escaping their attentions than the zebra would. They especially love the seeds, which are filled with a nutritious oil. Well, they are now melting into a property to the east of us called torchwood, and appropriate, therefore, that we're looking at a torchwood tree, also called a green thorn or a balanites. That's it there. I don't know if that is the eponymous tree, i.e. the tree after which the property is named. but certainly one of them. Right. I think that is the end of this little elephant sighting. We're going to get into a place actually where we can see the sun. I'm just looking there at a very beautiful sight of the sun going through these very starting to spread clouds. It's been actually quite nice having a cloudy day, I must say, and especially the blessing of that rain earlier. It's been very dry. And we've just been past Buffelshoek Dam, and Buffelshoek Dam is starting to look pretty ropey. It's starting to look a bit like Treehouse and Twin Dams and the Gowrie Dam. So not long will there be water there unless we get some big rains. Right, let us reverse and go towards Drakensberg Road and see what the mountains look like. Some further mammal delights on the way. Andrew, you didn't know what inguinal mammy were, did you?
Of course I did.
You did? Okay, good. Well, I'm very glad.
You use that word all the time.
You do you? I don't think you should. I don't think you should use it at all. There are some few more elephants coming across the road. Thank you very much, Melissa, in Los Angeles, where elephants are not in abundance. But you say that you have read that elephants can give birth up into their 50s. That is true, absolutely. An interesting rule. Sorry, there's a little one coming across too. Wendy's brakes have given up entirely, so it's a little bit difficult to stop these days. Melissa, thank you for that. Yep. Certainly it's true, and it's also true that they live a little bit beyond breeding age to pass on the knowledge. That, of course, is very important in elephant society. Now, I can hear this one. You won't be able to hear it, but the big one is talking to the little one behind. You can hear a very low rumble, which I'm pretty sure the camera microphone won't pick up. Maybe just a little reassurance, maybe an admonition or some kind of scolding. You see the ears out, just like that matriarchs were to start with. I think they're sharing some mother and they're doing it again. I think you can hear that.
I think so, yeah.
I don't know if you can hear that, everyone, but there's definitely making reassuring little, what sound like stomach grumbles, but aren't. They are made by the voice box. There's another one even to our right, but not a very good view. So we'll just keep looking at these ones.
This one's got a lot of little holes in his ears. Or her ears.
Ooh, the big one.
The little one. Quite a few in both ears.
That's really interesting. I wonder why. Maybe a punk. That's a little bit facetious. Elephants' ears do kind of ripped up by the thorns, and certainly if she was ever attacked by a predator, there's a cow wandering around here at the moment who's got basically half an ear. Let me move forward. I'm blocking your view. An enormous black monkey thorn tree. There we go. And there's a cow with a totally missing or half missing ear, and I suspect what happened was that it was ripped off as a calf, either by a predator or perhaps a tree when they were running from something. Maybe the thorns got hold of them. Remember, there's some very vicious hooked thorns out here, and they can make a huge difference to an animal. I see what you mean, little holes all around the bottom there. That's very interesting. They look almost like they've been deliberately pierced there, don't they?
Yeah, on both ears.
Well spotted. Very nice to look at ears. Often people ask what's the difference between an Asian and an African elephant, and the ear size is one of the most obvious things. An Asian elephant, remember, doesn't live doesn't live in the sun like an African elephant does. It lives in quite a lot of shade, although it's very hot in India. And because of that, they don't need the cooling mechanism quite as much as the African elephant does, that the ears provide. I'm just going to quickly whip around. There's another one just behind us there. Just going to reverse a little bit. Judith in North Carolina, elephant tusks. Interesting. We're looking at a little one here, which got pretty very close by, and pretty sharp tusks. Sorry, I'm not going to frighten you any further. Do they get sharper as they get older or blunter? Judith, they tend to maintain a pretty good sharpness, you know, and I think that's got a lot to do with their use. I think they do kind of get sharpened by use, but they do definitely maintain a pointed tip. You don't often see elephants with blunt tusks on the end. I mean, they're not rapier sharp, but they certainly are pointed towards the end. You wouldn't like to be I nearly said stuck with one, but I don't think that's likely to happen. But you wouldn't. They're certainly pointy enough into old age to do some damage. Now, somebody very observant, possibly a new viewer, Hilma in the Netherlands. Are you a new viewer? If you are, welcome. Thank you for your comment. It's brilliant. It's a really good observation. You've noticed, obviously, that there are oxpeckers or birds on many of the herbivores out here. The buffalo, the kudu and the impala, all of them just about have got oxpeckers, which are the ticky-eating. Oh dear, that tree's seen better days. It's a knobthorn tree, or it was a knobthorn tree. Destructive things, we'll get onto that now. Hilma, I just quickly want to answer your question because it's brilliant. Elephants don't have oxpeckers on them, and we're not entirely sure why, but what we do know is that they do not tolerate oxpeckers. So if an oxpecker tries to land on an elephant, it will quickly be hit off or thrown off, and they really don't they don't tolerate them in the slightest. We're not really sure why that would be the case. I think also the great collections of ticks and other ectoparasites that you do on rhino or on buffalo or other animals, and I suspect that's probably why the oxpeckers don't spend much time or trying to get onto elephants. They've obviously got other methods of cleaning the ticks off themselves, and yeah, they definitely won't tolerate the feeling of the birds on their skins. The other interesting thing that an elephant won't tolerate on its skin is egg. Now, that may sound like a strange thing to say, but believe it or not, it's true. And I used to work at a lodge where we had an elephant that came into camp during the winter because it was green. We watered the gardens, and so it was green. And so to get him out, we tried everything to get him out of the camp. We'd shout at him. We got those bear bangers which make a big noise, and we tried to get him out using those, and that didn't work. We tossed the odd stone at his bottom, I think, once or twice, and that didn't work in the slightest. Until somebody said, throw an egg at him, get some egg on his skin. We all thought this was ridiculous until a friend of mine and I went out one day with a tray of 24 eggs. Well, it took only 3 of them before we convinced this elephant that he should go and seek greenery elsewhere. The feeling of the broken, cracked egg, we hit him square on in the face first time round, and he shook his head like that, turned round, we hit him with another 2 on the bottom, and off he went. Right, I think that's the elephants. Marvellous sighting. Let's go and have a look at the mountains and see if they are presenting a beautiful sunset like I hope they're going to through the clouds that have blessed us on the ground again. Especially nice for the grass, which will in turn benefit all the grazers. while we are getting into a position to look at the sun in case it is very beautiful, which it most likely will be, we'll head across to Brent and the lions and give you an update as to what's going on there, and I'll see you later.
So we're busy meandering down our eastern boundary, and we had such a fantastic start with those lions and hyenas again. I feel like luck is on our side, and I'm hoping we might spot some spots. And so I'm just checking for any leopard tracks that might come in to this eastern area of Djuma Private Game Reserve. Everyone, if there are any new viewers out there, you are able to ask us questions while we're out in the bush. You can do that by two methods. You're more than welcome to send us an email on questions@wildearth.tv, or you can use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, and we have just stumbled upon a very nice herd of ellies, quite spread out at the moment. Very big cow off to the right here. Hello, elephants. Busy taking apart a knob thorn that they've obviously very recently pushed off. It's been so incredible having the amount of elephants we've had recently on Djuma and Arathusa. I mean, there have just been 5 or 6, sometimes up over 10 herds around every day, which has been incredible. You can see that one's having a bit of grass. With the amount of elephants we've seen a lot of breeding herds. We haven't seen that many big adult bulls, and obviously elephants mating is quite interesting. The fact that they will only mate when the female's in estrus and the male's in must, so they both have to be in heightened what's the correct word? The females would be sort of heightened heat, so heightened estrogen levels, and males and heightened testosterone levels. And Leslie from sunny California was wondering, do the males stick to one herd or do they move between multiple herds? And well, Leslie, they do move between multiple herds. And see, she's coming very close to us, and you always just got to watch the language. You can see her opening her ears a little bit there. So if she comes a little bit too close, I'll just ask her to move along, but she's going to move away, showing that displacement and walking away at a slight angle. She might turn her head towards us now, maybe shake it just to let us know that she's very big and she's very strong and we shouldn't mess with her. Oh, and next one coming through, the little one. Right, deciding to rather go round the bush than right past us. So Leslie, elephant bulls will mate with multiple females from multiple herds, and they will move between lots of different herds. Obviously, if they can mate with as many herds as possible, the best chance of spreading their genes. Busy crossing our boundary at the moment. Yes, little one, we see you. You can see that ears out displacement behavior, just moving away at an oblique angle. Oh, there's a little one coming up. There's a bull at the back, but there we are, that one there. By no means an adult, probably early 20s. Oh, sorry, no, it's just a cow who's got a very roundish head. And it is a cow, not a bull. I apologize for that. It is a cow, not a bull. I apologize for that. Hello, little one. So sedately moving off. Still a few, from what I can hear, in the bush, but the majority of the herd seem to have crossed our eastern boundary. And a little straggler, but I'm sure there's some more behind them. It wouldn't be hanging out by itself there. And there comes another one from behind, so it should be coming out into view shortly. So Leslie, yes, so as I was saying, the Ellie bulls will mate with multiple females over multiple herds to try ensure their genes are mate with multiple females over multiple herds to try and ensure their genes are spread through as many different herds as possible. Branches breaking, and as these Ellies cross our boundary, there's an absolute brilliant golden glow breaking through the clouds. And after the high energy intensity of the lions and the hyenas in the last few days, with shadow grabbing that impala, it's quite nice to just sit and reflect on. So, from a beautiful and affectation south into this to another with Commander Bond.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Wendy, where we are looking at, well, just a magnificent view of the sunset. And in the sunset you can see some hornbills, Andrew's favourite bird. They are your favourite, aren't they, Andrew?
By far.
They're red-billed hornbills, not that you can see their bill colour at all, but they are sitting, two youngsters, and you won't be able to tell that they're young ones there. But they've got very small beaks, and I suspect that dead tree in which they're sitting is the nest tree. Now they nest in holes in trees, so a dead tree like that would probably have a hole in it that they nested in. That is just too stunning for words. And they've come out, probably recently fledged. I think hornbills probably breed a little bit earlier than some of the other birds, and these guys are definitely just a few months old. And much smaller than their parents would be. And birds, of course, grow very fast. Isn't that wonderful? Look at them just enjoying the sunset quietly there. I think it's magnificent that it seems that we're not the only ones that enjoy the beauty of the sun, but even the hornbills like to have a look. I was trying to take a photograph of this with my exceptional camera, and I've just realised that Scott Dyson has taken my tripod head with him, so were he not such a large fellow, I might be tempted to deliver a beating to him on his return from leave, but I don't think I will. He's quite a big chap. Andrew, I've just taken yet another award-winning landscape photograph, if you can believe it.
Let's see.
Look at that, everyone. Award-winning. Hey? Look at that. Good heavens, I'm good.
Very nice.
Thank you. I'm not really good, everybody. I've never actually, I've never owned a camera before, this funny little thing that I have now. So, the other interesting thing, while we sit here and watch the sun, I think it's rather too beautiful for us to go away from just yet. Brent will be watching the lions. Brent will be watching the lions in case there's some kind of heavy action. What happens is they find a hole in a tree, which they don't necessarily dig. In fact, they don't excavate themselves. It will normally have been excavated by something like a woodpecker or a barbet, and the male and female will go in, investigate it, and then the female will go inside and she will shed all of her feathers and become naked inside the tree hole, and the male will seal her in with mud. So he'll seal the hole, and that is very important because she's obviously extremely vulnerable when she has no feathers on her body at all. She will then lay the eggs, And he will feed her through a small slit while she incubates them. He'll come back every day and feed her through a small slit in the mud sort of wall. And when the chicks eventually hatch, she's normally grown her feathers back sufficiently to come out, and you can tell the female that's just given, or that's just hatched some youngsters, because her tail is normally much shorter than it would be normally. Then what happens is the two of them reseal the nest while the fledglings, or while the chicks are inside, also naked and very vulnerable, and they feed the chicks through the same slit that the female would have been fed through. And eventually, when they're big enough, around about, well, probably a little bit smaller than the chaps you're seeing now, they fledge, they come out of the nest, and they sit magnificently silhouetted against the African sunlight for us. It's really rather special. The other fascinating thing that they do, of course, is that the male will put a millipede skeleton, exoskeletons have got cyanide in them. Just small quantities. I don't think eating a millipede would necessarily cause you immediate death. It would certainly be very unpleasant, though. And that poison helps to protect the hornbill's nest from attack by predators that might have designs on the little chicks. Isn't that a lovely picture? The little one preening himself and having his evening poo, of course. That's an almost totally unbelievable colour that you're seeing there. I mean, it's just magnificent. You can hear a number of birds in the background. Just be quiet for sort of 30 seconds and I'll tell you what we can hear. So we can hear francolins calling and ring-necked doves, and hear the odd waxbill. I can hear some red-billed wood hoopus, or green wood hoopus as they're now called. Oh goodness, that's just beyond beautiful. An interesting question while we look at, I mean, that is so gobsmackingly beautiful that it's almost unbelievable. Bob, while we look at that amazing site on Twitter, you wanted to know what are the hornbill's enemies. Bob, depends on the size of the hornbill, of course. The chicks would be particularly vulnerable in their nests to raptors like gymnogenes, which are eagle-like raptors. They're big birds of prey with feet that we call double-jointed, with double-jointed intertarses, and basically what that means is that the elbow joint on the foot will bend both ways. So they land on a tree and they'll bend their legs right into the whole nest hole, and they'll pull the chicks out and eat them. So they'd be very vulnerable to those. They'd also be vulnerable to snakes in the tree hole if they happen to be there without any protection. Something like a tree snake, a worm slung, or a vine snake. Well, vine snake is English, so a vine snake would go in there and eat the chicks out. So snakes certainly. Then when they get older, they'll be fall prey to it's normally the birds of prey that will come and get them sometimes, but you can see they were sitting out there in the open pretty fearlessly, I think, and I suspect that's because of the time of the day. You won't find them always sitting out in the open like that in the heat of the day when it's easy for the big birds to fly. And then the other thing that they would struggle with at night while they're roosting would be something like a genet or a civet or even an African wildcat, which might climb up a tree and try and grab them. And then a very interesting one, what they do is they will They will shed the odd feather. They will do it briefly. So just for those of you who perhaps don't know, molting means to get rid of old feathers and basically replace them with new ones. And very, very few birds that I know of, in fact the female hornbill is the only one, will get rid of all the feathers at the same time. And then get a new set. They're constantly being replaced, and certainly in the raptors you can see it every so often when they lose feathers in the wings, and you can see a missing primary feather, normally from the same part on each wing. And what that does will obviously, they're not quite dead, but they certainly don't have a vascular network that allows them to regenerate and heal particularly well. And that's why birds are such fastidious preeners. Preening is when they put their beaks into little oil glands in their bodies, and they cover the feathers in the oil, and they make sure that the filaments, which are their bodies, and they cover the feathers in the oil, and they make sure that the filaments, which are the sort of long bits, you've all picked up a bird feather before and split them apart like that, the regenerate themselves in the same way that, say, our hair or our skin might do that. So, good question, thank you for that, but I don't think a male hornbill ever completely molts. They'll lose feathers from time to time and just replace them as they go along. Right, I think that's fine. I have to agree with some of your sentiments that this is the most beautiful sunset that you've ever seen on Drive so far, and I think it is for me too. Andrew?
Yeah,
Top five?
The hornbills made it.
The hornbills made it. Andrew, of course, has a slightly obsession with hornbills. What was your friend's name, Andrew?
Billy.
Billy.
He's still my friend.
He's still your friend. What was your friend's name, Andrew?
Billy.
Billy.
He's still my friend.
He's still your... He may have forgotten you.
Unlikely that couple.
He is a bird brain. I have forgotten you.
Unlikely that couple.
He is a bird brain. Andrew had a strong relationship with a yellow-billed hornbill. Question from Cecilia in Maryland, who was apparently blown away by my photograph and wonders when I will teach a photography class. Cecilia, I'm an appalling photographer. That photograph that you saw was made entirely by the settings on the camera and the subject that was filmed. I will never be teaching a photography class. I'm not a very good photographer at all. Here are some beautiful zebras. And I'm just going to sneak past this termite mound because there are some impala as well. We'll get them both in shot, and in so doing win an Emmy Award. Or not. It's always interesting to me that this is not the best position. We're just going to stop here and see if they don't come out. So there are a whole lot of impala and zebra here, also enjoying the sunset like the hornbills were, and they're grazing, interestingly I think, around a termite mound. So some of the grass won't have shot yet after that rain we've had today, but certainly by tomorrow it will have. And they're eating around a termite mound, which will produce much more nutritious grass than any other kind of area. Should we go back a bit, Andrew? I think this is bottom view is perhaps not the best angle for these zebra. Well, there we go. We've got some facial expression there. Disappearing into the bush. I'm just going to sneak back slightly. Herbivores very seldom will ever get to the stage of confidingness. I don't think that's a word, but basically they will struggle to be as confiding or relaxed around vehicles, or habituated to vehicles as the predators or the bigger game like the elephants. You can see them just jogging off, and that's definitely because they're just a little bit nervous of the vehicle. And you can hear the cicadas calling. Oh, it's the most wonderful sound. Such a lovely sound of summer. And the smell in the air, of course, coming from the earth after the rain. Petrichor is what it's called. I was reminded again of that this morning. I think it was Marianne who reminded me from Baltimore. Thank you, Marianne, for that. I forget that word on a daily basis. And for those of you who don't know what it is, perhaps you weren't watching this morning, or you were possibly curled up in your bed, asleep and comfortable. Petrichor is the smell that comes off the earth after rain, and you all walked outside, I'm sure, after a rainstorm and smelt that delightful smell that comes off, especially wild areas. You even get it in cities, but especially in wild areas here, that smell that comes off the earth after rain. And that is surrounding us all right now. Right, on we go. Okay, we're going to continue our search. I'm hoping that we're going to pick up some tracks or signs of a leopard in this area. I haven't seen a leopard in this area for a very long time. I know that Mvula and Kunyuma were over there, sort of south of us, not too long ago, and I'm hoping one of them is going to come across. I will keep you posted on that search, but while I look around, let's head across to Brent, who is with a few pachyderms, and he will tell you his impressions of them after his beautiful lion sighting. See you just now.
Elephants everywhere. Quite a big one, but there's probably 15 to 20 individuals all around us at the moment. A young female in front of us. A young female in front of us. All around. As winter comes, they then again choose to eat more trees than grass, so I choose to browse, and this is quite good. It does give the trees a good 6-7 month period where they are not too badly eaten on by elephants, so it gives them a chance to recuperate, and that's nature looking after itself. So obviously, with all these breeding herds around, we're seeing quite a lot of wonderful little babies. And Teresa's wondering about the milk tusks in elephants. So, and Teresa, we've got this little elephant in front of us. It's probably about 2 years old. And so obviously milk tusk long gone by now. They lose them just before a year old, and I unfortunately have not ever found an elephant milk tusk out in the bush. And also, if I did, I would leave it there, or I would hand it in to the correct officials. It is illegal to pick up, carry, or be holding ivory, and you can get into big trouble for doing that, and you can find yourself as a guest of the state with 3 free meals a day and terrible coffee, from what I've been told. So I've heard of people who've even just picked up broken pieces of tusk from elephant bulls fighting, and have gotten into lots and lots of trouble from that. Here's Chigi. Came to try sneak up on us and give us a little charge. Now obviously pretending. Let me just move forward as a splash. Boisterous little elephant in front of us. Well, spending a lot of time with elephants like I have all over the years, there's different little signs of body language that you learn to look for and pick up on. And Terence, who's from Philadelphia, home of a cheese melt steak. I had one the last time I was in America. Philadelphia, famous for its cheese melt steaks. I was wondering, when do you know it's a mock charge, was the word used. And Terence, there's no such thing as a mock charge. So what was traditionally called a walk charge is a warning charge. Quite often, depending on the situation, a lot of the times the eddies will be just letting you know that they're there, and you mustn't push the boundaries or go too close to them. That's ears open, trumpeting quite a bit, quite often, head held very high. There we go. Some displacement behavior. Might turn around and show us, but obviously not too much threat from a little one like this. So there we go. Ears out, head out, quite often coupled with quite a lot of head shakes. And normally, and of course there's never ever one set rule with these things, is that an elephant will move its trunk or wrap its trunk up. It's one of its most important body parts, so it doesn't want to damage it. And the ears will remain flat and not open when they're coming into a full charge. And even in those situations, you can stop a full charge with some correct language, shouting at them, make noise, clapping. You can quite often stop a full charge before it goes through. Obviously, it's very important to just read the animal's behavior. Thankfully, all of us out here have got lots and lots of experience. And I grew up in an area in northern Botswana where we would see 1,000 elephants on a game drive, and these elephants weren't nearly as relaxed as our Sabi Sands elephants. Quite often, they hadn't seen a vehicle, or maybe didn't see a vehicle for 6 or 7 months at a time, whereas these elephants and the Kruger elephants see vehicles on a daily basis, so they're far more used to it. So I did learn an incredible amount about elephant behavior and reading elephant body language during that time in my life, and I was also very fortunate to have some incredible teachers while I was there, my dad probably being paramount amongst them. And he started taking us on walking and on foot into elephants regularly from when we were about 5 years old. So very, very lucky to have the upbringing that I've had. And I do absolutely love spending time with eddies. One of my first memories was of an elephant on foot. I was about 2 years old in Botswana, and my parents had stopped at a waterhole for a drink stop, and I meandered off, and they suddenly realized I was missing. I tended to do that quite a lot as a child over the years, and my dad found me about 5-6 meters away from a huge elephant bull, and I was talking to the elephant, having a full conversation in my gibberish, and my dad managed to walk up and remove me from the situation and give me a hell of a hiding, which was thoroughly deserved. I think he was more scared that his son was going to be stood on by 7 tons of elephant, and since then I've spent, I think, an inordinate amount of time with ellies, and definitely one of my favorite animals, especially on foot. So all along the edge of this little drainage line, slowly feeding, very spread out, and elephants do that quite often when they are feeding. I mean, they're probably spread out over about 300-400 meters at the moment. So while these ellies move off into these thickets, we're going to go back to Commander Bond, from the heaviest land mammal in the bush to the tallest.
And from the tallest presenter that we have to the shortest. Welcome to, and you can see the great pinkness of the cold front that came through today, with the storm in the background. She has decided that she is now very shy. Storm in the background. She has decided that she is now very shy. She heard Louise calling in that we were live and ducked her head behind a zip. But it's also very tasty, and the giraffe will deal with the fact that the thorns are pretty vicious for the lovely taste of the buffalo thorn, or Ziziphus mocronata. Now I'm going to try to reverse back a bit. She's on the next door reserve, so it's not possible to drive in there off-road after her. What I will do, I'm just going to go a little bit forward, put it in reverse, and go a little bit back. There is another giraffe around here, but it's also gone into the deeper bush, I think. There it is. Look at that, Andrew. Marvellous. Yeah, it's a bit easier to look at. No, it's not a fox behind a tree. Sorry, and go back a little bit further. There we go. Is that right? There we go. Another cow. And of course we use the term journey of giraffe. It's not a biological term, it's just quite a nice alliterative term. Journey of giraffe, and these ones are particularly irritating because they don't want to be seen. But a journey of, or herd of giraffe is normally a number of related females and their babies, and then the bulls kind of wander between groups. They're not, there we go, oh, there's another two, look, can you see them there? Is that any good thing? Very good. They're fine. And they're pretty loose social associations. So unlike the elephant herds, which are very stable and tend not to change up a huge amount, these giraffe herds apparently are pretty loose associations, and the cows will move between groups dependent on, well, I guess their relationships with the others in the group. Look at that tongue. Isn't that amazing? It's so long. I think it is the, if I'm not mistaken, the land mammal with the longest tongue. Certainly wouldn't surprise me. Also, beautiful eyelashes. She's been working with her mascara all day long. And those eyelashes, apart from providing, they really are quite stunning, apart from being very pretty, provide an extremely important function. You can see she just basically headbutted an extremely thorny tree. And what those eyelashes do is protect the eyes from the thorns. It's very important. Now we're looking at the horns. Of course, there are lots of, well, they're not lots, there are 2 horns on each giraffe's head, and the female's horns are very sort of dainty. And Gracie in Ohio, aged just 8 years, wants to know if they ever break off. Gracie, they do. I've never seen a female with a broken horn though, because they don't fight as much, you see. The bulls, or the males, tend to fight with each other quite a lot, and sometimes, not very often, but sometimes those horns do snap off, and then you will find a male with either one just sort of floppy, sort of flopping there, or you'll find him with it broken completely off. There we go, they're coming on to Juma now. That's wonderful. Look at the way they walk. Always looks like it's completely slow motion to me. I think the rest you'll find will come across. There we go. So Gracie, sometimes they will break their horns. It's not very often though. And it's always the males. Remember, the males, just like with human beings, like to fight with each other more than the females do. There we go. And rather like I was saying with the elephants, where the bulls are so much bigger than the cows, it's the same thing with giraffe. Giraffe look immensely tall, and then you see a bull standing next to a cow and you realize how, I mean, he's almost a third bigger than her again. So the males will be up to 4.5 meters tall, and the females normally not much more than 3.2 meters. That's still pretty tall. I mean, if you put Brent and Bryan standing on top of each other, you might get to almost the height of a giraffe cow. Right, good. There we are. Marvelous giraffe sighting. Oh, another one coming across the road. Oh, 4 or 5 of them in this little journey. There we go. All right, let's try and turn around. Good. And it is starting to get a little bit nippy now. Certainly not freezing by any stretch of the imagination, but it is much cooler than it has been, and that's of course because we've had some rain today and some cloud cover, which means that the burning sun has not roasted us like it has over the past week or so. You may lose us here as we go through this dip. If you do, I will see you on the other side. Oh, it's a lovely smell. Right, let's nip across to Brent. He's with some beefaloes at Treehouse Dam. I'm going to head past Twin Dams here and see if we can't find sign of anything interesting. We'll go across to Brent and I'll see you just now.
And here we are at the Treehouse Waterhole, or what's left of it, with a group of retired gentlemen and an incredibly beautiful African sky. And they've been wallowing in the mud, getting rid of some ticks and keeping away from the biting flies. This particular gentleman has had a haircut and he's broken off half his horn. And you can see him there ruminating. I'm quite happy there are no lions around here at the moment. And we can hear a da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da in the background is a lilac-breasted roller calling from the darkness behind us. And number 3 out of Africa's Big 5 on this sunset safari. The Cape buffalo or African buffalo. And I haven't done this for so long, I think we should play a little game. So I'm a very big fan of all the original Victorian collective nouns for animals. And let's see who can remember or who knows what the original Victorian collective noun for a group of buffalo is. Obviously we quite often call them herds these days, but way back when they were called something else. And if you know the answer, don't forget, send through your answers via email to questions@wildearth.tv, or if you are tech savvy and hip with social media, you can use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. It's always great to sit quietly at a spot like this and listen as well. I mean, wonderful that we've got some buffalo here, and that sky is just phenomenal. But if there is a leopard around, we should hear alarm calls, or even possibly a territorial call from that leopard at about this time of the day. And we're at the time where certain creatures of the night are going to start moving. Bush babies, janets, civets, bats, honey badgers, nightjars, owls. And speaking of owls, I'm going to keep quiet in a second. We can hear an owl calling. Tiny little owlet calling. It's not the full call of the pearl-spotted owlet. The full call would be generally, and I know James is far better at this than me, but I'll give it a bash. And let's see if we get an answer. We're getting an answer from a different owl behind us. Buffalo is looking to the direction of that owl calling. Probably not because the owl might have heard something. Those elephants are slowly making their way towards here. Maybe he's heard the elephants crashing in the bush and he's not too sure what it is. And we've got the crested francolins. We can hear that owl responding. Let's go a little bit closer to that owl's calling and see if we can get a view. And as darkness settles, out come our spotlights. Have a quick check around the edges. The leopard hasn't managed to sneak up onto us in the dark. Try and call that owl again when I get a little bit closer to where I thought he was calling from. I absolutely adore this time of the day. My dad calls it magic hour just after the sunset. My dad calls it magic hour just after the sunset. Twilight. Always a good time to look for crepuscular hunters. For those wondering what crepuscular means, animals, birds that are most active at dusk and dawn. there's some really good answers there from a bunch of people, Karen, Crystal, Judy, and many others. Unfortunately, none of you have got it right. Someone was on the right track with an obstinacy, but as far as I know, the original collective Victorian collective noun is called an indomitability of buffalo. And obviously they developed quite a fierce reputation amongst the early Victorian and European settlers in Africa. And that goes down to the Africa's Big Five. And the Big Five are the originally got their name from the 5 most dangerous animals to hunt on foot. And buffalo are incredibly tough and have retired many a hunter over the years. Okay, let's just get up onto the flat ground ahead and see if we can find this little owlet again. Okay, just have a quick little whistle. So it doesn't look like my challenge is being accepted. I think I've been seen straight through by that little owlet. And along with the other noises, apart from the owls and the francolins that were just making a cacophony as the last light disappeared, we're also surrounded by this incessant buzzing of cicadas. And let's see if we can spot one. Sometimes they're easier to spot at night. Definitely one on this tree, Bryan. Hear him. So I'm going to try and find you a cicada, and while we do that, it can be quite difficult. We're going to cross back to Commander Bond, who's with a tiny, tiny little member of our Djuma family.
Hello everyone. We don't normally do this. There's a very little wash of light in the front of the car. I'm not going to put a spotlight on what we're looking at, but underneath its mother's stomach, what looks like a small grey rock is in fact a baby elephant, definitely less, just probably a few months old, asleep on the ground there. And so often people ask us, do they sleep? How do they sleep? And there's the answer. So Mum is just feeding quietly around here, and the little one is lying down on the ground, fast asleep. It didn't stir as we drove up, and sometimes you see this and you think maybe they're dead, but we've just watched quite carefully, and the little stomach is rising and falling as it sleeps completely soundlessly there. We're not going to stay here for long. Just a quick look to show you that elephants do actually lie down on the ground and sleep. Isn't that beautiful? Completely sound asleep. Okay, There we go. We're not going to stay here. I obviously don't want to disturb them, and we don't normally put any kind of light on elephants. So I'm going to move the light off there. And if you want to ask me questions about that, of course, you are more than welcome. We'll drive on slowly. Just leave that little elephant to its slumbering. Oh, quickly, let's go to Brent. He's got some cicadas for you. Wonderful. Sorry, apparently we are still live. We can't get hold of Brent, but he has got mating cicadas, and as soon as we can get hold of him, we'll send you across to them. That will be fascinating. I've been trying to find the cicada the whole time since they came out, which was about 4 weeks ago. All right, he's... Oh, okay. So he is standing by now, but apparently the carnal act that was being performed by the cicadas is now over. We'll send you across to him and he can tell you all about it. See you now.
Welcome back, everyone. And in my search for cicadas must be a cricket. And we've got these large cricket species here. I'm not 100% sure which. They could be one of the mole crickets or burrowing crickets. And here is a... So, off to increase her chances. And there's another female there who's actually excavating a burrow. So we had that little shower today. It's obviously got a lot of the insect life out and about. Oh, pop down there. So obviously, let's feed the male still here. Sorry, Bryan. There's the male. But obviously, these incredible noises and calls are very important for these animals to find each other for mating. There we go. Bryan, when it goes back to the hole, that's the one calling. There we go. And that vibration is so fast that we can hardly see it with our eyes. Oh, and the male's moving towards that female. Oh, she went down the hole. Maybe she's not so keen. Let's just see what happens. Oh, and off he went down the hole after her. Oh, well. Win some, you lose some. Okay. Let's go see what else we can find out here. Oh, wait, no. Oh. Being chased out. Back down again. So she might be ready to lay eggs already. And that's why she's not very interested in the males' maneuvers, but like any good male, I think he's going to show some persistence. Oh, bird! Go away! Oh, there we go. He's been evicted again. And I think that's that. That eviction is over. I will... so Raisa was asking about the cicadas. It's like, well, where all the animals and birds that eat the cicadas? They're around, Raisa, but there's just so many cicadas around, and of course they're not the only ones adding to this incredible nocturnal noises. I quite like the sound of all the insects at night. owls and hyenas. I think a lot of what we're hearing around us now, from just having a look, are the crickets on the ground rather than cicadas. And I'm sure during the summer months in Finland, where Rais is from, you must get quite a few insects as well. And I'm sure they create their own cacophony. It's always wonderful this time of year. We can start looking for scorpions and chameleons and all sorts. Oh, and look, I think I found one of the stranger creatures out in the African bush, a tailless primate, and that goes into with what Philip was asking. Philip was wondering, what is a bush baby? Philip, welcome on the live safari drive. And a bush baby is an animal who's about the same size as James Hendry, except it has a tail. It climbs in trees. I will show you a picture of one just now once I manage to get around James, who is hiding from us at the moment. If we have a look there, and if we put the spotlight on, you just see some feet. He's taking it easy. Andrew and James are fast asleep. It's probably because they couldn't find any animals this afternoon apart from the elephants. But there we go. Andrew's trying not to laugh. He's got Andrew gave Andrew let it go. Andrew couldn't keep a straight face.
Hey everyone, what a funny joke we were playing. Ha ha ha.
So it looks like we're both working in the same area. Unfortunately, no sounds of alarm calls or whatnot yet. But a bit bright.
Be a safari like this, I think, don't
Yes, yeah, definitely.
you? What happened to the lions?
It was really, really interesting. So when we arrived there, before we went live, at that main T-junction, the 7 Tsalala animals were sleeping, and the 3 were 20 meters away from them eating the buffalo carcass. The Tsalala animals then got off and went to go have a drink, and we came back, rushed in and charged those other 3 lions. And
The young lionesses.
the one I think's a bit older, but yeah, those 3 young lionesses, and chased them off, and then harassed them running around because the one lion ran off with a piece of rib cage. And then what happened is that they moved basically towards that little concrete waterhole in front of the camp there, and the hyenas were literally running everywhere, cackling, being hyenas. And then the 3 lionesses went off to the right, away from the rest of the pride, and one adult female from the pride followed them and stopped close to her, and then didn't actually ever do any contact.
They might be related.
Must be.
Must be.
Otherwise, I think, and I mean, 7 versus 3 and young 3 opposed to that. I got a very interesting message from Karen Gillen, who's obviously one of our admins at WildEarth, and also has been maintaining quite a lot of the lion and leopard pages and trying to keep. And she says the original Shimungwe pride, I don't think they're Shimungwe though. I don't know. They could be.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I would say they're lions. But the original Tsalala lioness broke from the Shimungwe, which was Carsten pride. So, but if they are related, it could be quite a long way back. And
distant cousins.
Yeah, but imagine that normally, but we've seen even close related lions that have split for long enough fights. So maybe it's just that everyone's drawn a temporary truce because of all the male lion pandemonium.
There's 3 lions there, or the 3 Shimungwes, whatever they are, the Tsalalas there, the Talamatis, not sort of 3 or 4 kilometers away from them?
Probably a little bit less.
A little bit less?
Yeah,
so
probably 2.5 k's.
Lions in the territory of 1.
Of the Nkuhumas who have gone back into the Kruger National Park.
Yeah, the Nkuhumas not here. All rather fascinating.
Yes, lions will keep us guessing. Well, we're going to go look for a bush baby for Philip.
We're going to find a leopard.
And hopefully, one of us will find a leopard or a bush baby. We'll take either at the moment.
Which way are you going?
I'm going to head back to Juma Dam.
We'll go this way.
Goodbye.
Bye, Bryan. Come on. Bye.
So that was our afternoon meeting. Nice to have you guys involved in that discussion about the lion dynamics at the moment. Fascinating stuff that's happening. So Philip, sorry, back to the bush baby before I got distracted by our camp bush baby, James. So it's a very small primate with really big ears and a long tail and incredibly well-developed nocturnal vision. Another name for them is galagos. And in this area we've got two species. The South African bush baby, which is a very small little guy, which is the most common one. And the thick-tailed bush baby, which is actually quite big. We don't get thick-tails up here. They're generally far more confined to the larger river systems in the area. So further south of us and further east of us, you'll get thick-tailed bush babies, and they're great fans of figs. But all of them are sort of, the lessers are quite heavily insectivorous, so they eat lots of moths and katydids and nocturnal grasshoppers and crickets and whatever they can find, but they are arboreal. So arboreal means they live in trees, and they like to live in little hollows in the trees, and they make wonderful nests, and they quite tightly, the family groups will live in this. And I've had a few pet bush babies over the years that we've rescued. One particular one was called Gremlin. And one problem about having a pet bush baby is when you go to bed, they're awake and want to play. And the Gremlin would jump onto your face to wake you up if you weren't paying enough attention. The other thing which a lot of people obviously would have quite a problem with, it's quite disgusting. So a very particular bush baby trait is that they urinate on their hands and feet constantly. And there's a couple of reasons for this. It apparently helps with a bit of stickiness for gripping while they're jumping through the branches, but that is by far the lesser reason for it. The main reason is it helps them spread their scent further. And so when scent marking territorial boundaries and whatnot, there will always be a little bit of urine on their feet that will help them mark a lot wider area with a little bit of urine. So this is quite a good area for bush baby as we come through to the little dip here in the drainage line. We have seen them around here quite a bit. If not, I've got a few other good spaces to look for them, Philip. If not, hopefully James finds one and we can jump across to him. So if anyone is a bit new out there, can you believe we are live in the African bush? You are seeing what I'm seeing at the same time, and at the moment we're on search of a bush baby and hopefully a leopard. And while we continue our searches, we're going to cross back to James, who's searching to the south of us.
There we go. Hello everyone. The intention behind our little sort of cameo sleep performance there was that Brent would just drive past. Andrew, of course, was unable to contain himself and started giggling. And that, of course, ruined what was well, didn't ruin it, I suppose. It alerted them to the fact that we were, in fact, awake. And then an interesting discussion on those lions. It really is fascinating to me that we've got 3 prides of lions in the middle of the territory of another pride, which has absconded off to the Kruger Park. And I think it's probably got everything to do with the Birmingham boys and the effect that they've had on this area. And I wonder, I know that Junior hasn't been seen for a while, and for those of you who are perhaps new viewers, Junior is a 3.5-year-old male, probably pushing 4 by now, you know, with the Nkahuma pride that has been, well, I mean, he certainly is under a great deal of danger from the new coalition of males called the Birmingham Coalition. There is not a chameleon. I thought it was a chameleon, but it isn't. It's a butterfly. Can you see it there, Andrew?
Yes.
You know what, the light is not great for these things. No, there it is. Everybody, it looks much... Oh, there we go. That's a lovely picture of it. Well done. So that's the African migrant. African migrant, it's called. And we've seen lots and lots of them around recently. I think they must have just come out of their pupas, whatever. I don't know what they eat. They eat... Oh, sorry, I do know what they eat, actually. The adults eat acacia flowers. I'm not sure what the larvae eat. And I think that a lot of people leave school and forget their biology immediately. And I just want to quickly go through how the life cycle of a lepidopterid, i.e. a moth or a butterfly works. And you learnt this all when you were probably 6 or 7 years old, and in case you've forgotten, what happens is that one of those things, assuming that's a female, will, and you can actually tell if you can see the wing spots, but not from this distance, she will lay an egg on whatever food source it is that the caterpillar will eat, and then the egg will hatch into a caterpillar, which of course doesn't resemble that thing at all. Now, a caterpillar, astonishingly, the next time you see one in your garden, or perhaps climbing out of an apple that you've just bought from the supermarket, before you run away squealing, have a look at how many legs it has. And many people think caterpillars have lots of legs. Caterpillars only have 6 legs, exactly like the adults. They are insects, and therefore they only have 6 legs. The caterpillar will then eat voraciously with a great hunger, like Andrew and I are going to when we get back from drive, and on whatever it is. So in the case of the African migrant, it may well be combretum trees. Certainly they sit on combretum trees. And then what happens is the caterpillar will pupate. It forms a chrysalis around its body, and that chrysalis is a kind of hard shell. And the caterpillar then, it's still a very mysterious process that we don't fully understand, but basically the caterpillar will metamorphosize or change into the butterfly. And inside that chrysalis, it almost goes into like a jelly-like liquid. It loses that look of a caterpillar completely, and it becomes a jelly or liquid, and eventually is reconstituted as a magnificent, beautiful butterfly. And those butterflies, and it becomes a jelly or liquid, and eventually is reconstituted as a magnificent, beautiful butterfly. And those butterflies are such a pretty green color, especially when they're caught in the daylight sun. It really is a beautiful minty green color. And someone once told me that human beings go through a similar kind of psychological metamorphosis, where we go into a chrysalis phase, if you like, where we don't know, we don't understand who we are, where we are, and change is afoot. And it's a difficult time because we feel totally liquefied and we don't really have a direction. And then slowly we reconstitute and eventually emerge as a butterfly with a direction. I think that's a rather lovely analogy. Andrew, what do you think?
Beautiful.
You think it's ridiculous, don't you? Beautiful. That's called the African migrant. Right. Let us press along. Hoping to see a chameleon, of course, as well. And the interesting thing about kind of almost luminous green-white is probably invisible to some of the predators that might eat them at night. And I'm just trying to think what would eat one of them at night. Chameleons certainly would be taken by a snake, but they're probably pretty much asleep at night. But then they might also be taken by a nocturnal predator like a genet, or even some of the owls, I guess. I'm just going to quickly get out of the way here. Hello, Craig. Sorry about that light. Sorry, there we go.
Good evening. How are you, sir?
How's it going?
All right. Where
Good.
did you come from?
We have come from the deep east. Deep east, the far east, yes.
Far east.
The far east. There were some elephants,
Yes.
and that was all.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
As you were, you off to dinner?
Slowly.
Good.
Monkey.
Good. Well, don't catch too many. There aren't many around. Enjoy your dinner. Sorry for blinding you as you pulled up.
Snowbirds running around.
Okay, super.
Yes, well, we'll see you bright and early in the morning.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's Craig from Cheetah Plains, and Cheetah Plains just to the southeast of us. He's been up with the lions, and you probably met him there with Brent earlier. So as I was saying, the chameleons are similar colour to those African migrants when you're looking at night. And so people are always astonished when you, as a guide or a tracker, are able to spot them at night, and you get acclaimed as a great hero of the bushveld. When actually
when you know what you're looking for, it's pretty easy to find them. I have to confess that I have and I say, well, you know, it's a very rare talent, of course, that I developed over many years in the bush, when in actual fact it's pretty obvious. Once this light casts across a chameleon, you see it almost immediately. There's not many of them around right now. Other nocturnal things that we might hope to see would be night jars, which are nocturnal birds, very cleverly designed insect catchers, bush babies, like Brent was saying. The thing is with a bush baby, though, is that during the summertime, like now, there's obviously a lot of foliage on the bushes, and they're eating insects mainly. There are huge numbers of insects out, and the bush babies will eat insects rather than the acacia gum that they eat during the winter. And so we see more of them in the winter because there's not so much food around, and it's just much more concentrated that there is. So all the way from Finland, where no doubt it's getting pretty cold right now, Raisa, you would want to know how much rain we had today. We had about 1 centimeter, I would say, 10 millimeters, maybe just less, so about 1/3 of an inch. And you want to know if that would have made a difference to the number of insects there are around here today. No, I don't think it has. I think it's actually had the opposite effect. And that's simply because it's cooled the air down a lot, and obviously for an insect, it's not easy to move around when it's very cool. And so I think what you'll find is that tomorrow evening there may be more insects than there were yesterday evening. But right now, because of the cool atmosphere that the rain has given us, there are fewer insects around than there were, say, last night or 2 nights ago. Certainly fewer of them bashing into my eyes and into Andrew's legs as he sits behind me. They are inexorably attracted to the light of the spotlight, and also the neon. There's a kind of LED light that shines on me from behind Andrew, and I think basically is ideally positioned so that insects fly up his shorts, basically. And so every so often you might hear a thumping around, and that's Andrew who's been attacked by a beetle of some sort. Never a nice thing. We're now into the sort of far western side of Djuma, obviously not in Arathusa yet, which is the property to the west of us, and we are coming towards a very large, another torture tree. Remember, we had the torture tree next to the torture boundary that we were on a little while back with those elephants. And the reason we are here is that this is a haunt. It's almost the territorial boundary between Karula, an 11-year-old female leopard who we see relatively regularly, and her daughter, Shadow, who was seen 2 days ago killing an impala not too far from here. And so it's always a good idea to just pop around and see if one of them isn't perhaps marking territory, especially on the territorial boundary, and especially after some rain. You'll find that the predators do go out and remark their boundaries just to make sure that there aren't any incursions. In the case of Karula and Shadow, not so much, because they are mother and daughter, and so if they do meet, well, they're probably not the friendliest mother and daughter meeting in the world. It certainly isn't aggressive as it would be with unrelated females and unrelated males. Maybe I should turn the lights back on, Andrew. Let me see that. There we go. So while I'm shining the spotlight, what you want to look for, of course, is the shining of eyes in the darkness. And if you you don't see the shining of eyes in the darkness, the flash, kind of pale white flash of a chameleon. And the other thing I think we'll do right now, while we sit here, is stop and have a listen. There are two sounds I want you to hear. There are two very distinct insects that are calling now. The bird should be asleep. So you can hear the cicadas going. And you can also maybe hear something called a rain locust. And it's going. Can you hear it, Andrew?
Yes.
Isn't that cool? It's such a melodic thing for an insect to make. Sounds like some of the music Andrew plays, some of the electronic music that he plays. And then there is the odd frog actually off in this, to the western side there. It's probably a little puddle or something that they're living in. And then you did hear that ring-necked dove going cuckoo, cuckoo. Very odd time of the night for them to be around. Probably its last call before it goes to bed. Wonderful sounds of the night. Let us continue. Now, while we're driving along looking at nothing but green vegetation, Miss Lena is watching with her class of children. Miss Lena, I'd love to know how old those kids are, but from what the sounds of things, you're probably preschool, kindergarten kids. And they want to know, and you with them, how long is an elephant's trunk? Excuse me. I tried to combine the words trunk and tusk at the same time. I'm going to begin that again. How long is an elephant's trunk when it's born, and how long does it get when it's an adult? Miss Lena, an elephant's trunk when it's born is actually pretty small. While we're driving along, it's probably only about that long. You see my hands there. And then if it's a big bull, it will be, well, what should we say? Probably almost 10 feet long when it's grown up. I have never measured it, of course, but probably about 10 feet. Huge thing, 10 times the size of it when it was born. But the big thing is for the trunk, that when it's born, the trunk doesn't reach the ground, and that's important. It's interesting because an elephant is so uncoordinated when it's born that they'd step all over the trunk when they were born, and so it can't reach the ground. Then as they get older, what happens is that it lengthens in proportion with their body, so that eventually it's able to touch the ground so that they can graze properly and drink properly out of water, at least out of ponds and things. And then the other thing that happens when they are older is that it becomes much more, I'm trying to say this in a simple way, I think you might have to draw it for your kids, Miss Lena, concertina-like. So what it does is it stretches, becomes much more stretchy, like a slinky, if you like, as they get older. Oh, right, let us go across to Brent. He's got a reptile for you to have a look at, and I will see you a little bit later.
And there, camouflaged at the top of this combretum or bush willow, is a very large flap-neck chameleon. And you can see that camouflaged working well. You can see the tail and the body. He's facing away from us. It's a very big chameleon. We only get one chameleon species here. And with the rains, we should start seeing them more and more. This one is obviously not in the most ideal spot to look at him. But I'm going to try and move the car in a second or two, see if we can get a slightly different angle. But as Bryan pulls out, you'll see how high up in the tree this chameleon is. And we'll see if we can get another view of him. And so he's right up at the top of the tree. See if we can get a slightly better view, maybe have a look at his cute little face. It's going to be quite difficult. Oh, there we go, maybe. Right. How's that for you, Bryan? I think I might have maybe a bit further forward. So there we go. The branches to sleep during the night, and of course it looks like we absolute rock stars that we spot a chameleon hiding in a tree, but at night they become very pale and white, and it makes them quite easy to spot in the spotlight. And the longer you keep the light on them, the better they become at changing color again. And so, as you can see, slowly disappearing. We're right on the edge of the quarantine clearings, and let's go see if we can find any of those wonderful little nocturnal animals that might be perusing for insects and other prey species after a little bit of rain we had today. It was a very, very soft rain. It wasn't a very large rain. And who knows, maybe we'll spot another chameleon that's in a bit of a spot to look at. As I said that, I thought I spotted one much lower down, but it wasn't. So out in these open things, especially after a little bit of rain like we had today, I'm hoping we might find a white-tailed mongoose. There's some general game out on the plains here. We'll see them as we go past. Let's turn off my spotlight for a second. I'll just use the dimmer, more dim side light. And we don't want to shine bright spotlights on animals like impala and zebra, which are out here on the plain. I'll just shine near them quickly, but I won't put the light directly on them. I'll just put the lights up into the sky. You just see the impala. There they are. And the reason for this is obviously they're diurnal animals, and they have... Oh, it's not a chameleon, but it is something quite pretty, and something we don't get to see clearly too often during the day. It's now generally highly mobile. Oh no, now I've lost sight of it. Where's it gone? Let me have another look. Quick look if we can see it. There was a butterfly sleeping on the edge of the tree, but I will... there we go. When I was driving, I couldn't get the angle. And it looks like an African vagrant. A lovely little minty green color on the outside of the wings. And guys, it's been so spectacular having you on this sunset safari. Bryan and I have thoroughly enjoyed taking you around to Djuma Private Game Reserve, and what an epic couple of safaris the last two safaris have been, with the Tsalala Pride and those hyenas and the buffalo kill, and as always great elephants everywhere. So from Bryan and myself, we're going to say good night and hand you over to James for the last few minutes of show, and don't forget to join us bright and early for the sunrise safari.
Wow. That's cool. Does that mean we laugh? Hello everyone. I'm standing on a fallen marula tree. There are galloping impala and galloping wildebeest all the way around the place. They've come out onto the clearing so that they can see what's going on at night. And it's going to be very difficult for them. It's cloudy. It's been a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. Thank you very much for participating in it. We've had some beautiful elephants, astonishing lion and hyena activity with Brent, and then some very nice general scenery and good stuff that we managed to see. This marula tree, by the way, has been pushed over, and the reason I'm standing in it is not just because it's interesting to climb, but because it has changed the direction of its growth completely. It's been pushed over by elephants, and it's now growing. Instead of growing sort of in the same direction that it was, it's turned to face the sky, and it's growing up. It's been a wonderful afternoon, like I say. A big thank you to Louise, who's back from Johannesburg in the final control, Tara, who's also there helping out and mentoring, and of course to Brent, Leo Smith and Bryan on the other vehicle. It remains for me also to say thank you to Andrew for his contribution. Thank you, Andrew.
Pleasure, sir.
Thank you very much. How much time have we got? Right, 1 minute to go. And thank you to all of you, especially our youngsters. Isabella, little 4-year-old, thank you for your elephant questions. Wonderful to hear from you. And of course, little Gracie, a regular contributor all the way from Ohio. It really does make a difference to hear from our youngsters. And of course, Miss Lena's class, of course, all of them all together. It really does make a difference to us to hear from you. It means a lot. And it means a lot because young kids who become interested in the wilderness will eventually become conservation champions, we hope. And this world, with its huge numbers of people and its increasing pressures on wilderness areas, really need young champions of the wilderness. So thank you very much for your contributions and questions, with our younger viewers especially. It's really good always to hear from you. Right, we are now finished. And it remains for me just to say good night. I can't actually hear or see Andrew, and so I was hoping to be able to see what was going on as far as our closing goes, but I think we have about 10 seconds left. So please stay healthy and happy and well wherever you are. We will see you tomorrow for the Dawn Safari at 5:30 our time. And until then, well, goodbye and stay safe.